Hi there, welcome to another episode of the Diary of a Wellness Bodybuilder. I'm Sumaya Sarwar, your host, and today we are going to be talking about how to set boundaries with the people in your life while prepping for a bodybuilding show. So, this is something I had to learn the difficult way. I would say my lesson started long time ago, but it mainly started happening when I started bodybuilding. Even before I decided that I want to compete, I started to notice that the choices I'm making on a day to day basis, whether it's having to carry my meals with me or not being able to hang out really late at night because I have to wake up early to go to the gym or whatever it may be, was really causing conflict with the people that were in my life at that time. Whether that be friends that have known me for years prior to this, or that be family members that weren't really understanding why I can't eat certain meals and this and that. So I started to butt heads with them and kind of avoid conflict at that point in time because I didn't even really know how to have those conversations. Granted, now when I look back, I realize that I could have handled certain situations better instead of walking away from certain friendships if I knew how to communicate the changes I was going through and how the friendship needed to be moving forward. Maybe I could have still had a few people in my life that I decided to walk away from. But lesson learned, now we do things differently. So let's dive into my tips. Number one tip is you need to know what your non negotiables are. So be very clear with yourself first what you are willing to compromise on and what you are not going to compromise on no matter what. For me, that is my sleep on season, off season, all year around. Because when I don't get enough sleep, I am such a different person compared to when I have gotten my solid 8, 9 hours of sleep. And I'm cranky, I tend to not have energy, I turn into this mean person, and that is not fun for me or anybody else. So I make sure that I am getting enough sleep. No way in hell would I wake up earlier than I have to, especially when I know I have to get my cardio done, I have to get some training done. And being an NPC wellness bodybuilder, I'm training legs 3 times a week, and each of those leg sessions are super crazy. So I stay sore a lot. If I don't sleep enough, I don't recover well, and the snowball effect starts to happen, and that's no bueno. So when family or friends invite me to things that is going to push back my bedtime, I have to gently decline. Or when it comes to something that I would have to wake up earlier or I would have to miss my meal to be at an event, like I'm very aware of when my body tends to get hungry. For me, it's 2 hours. If I go anything more than 2.5 or 3 hours starts to hit, I turn into a gremlin. I'm not a happy camper. So when I get invited to events that is going to conflict with that and I won't be able to bring my meal with me, or it's going to get me overstimulated when I'm already on prep and already tired and fatigued and trying my hardest, I'm learning to communicate with the individuals and be like, hey, I don't think this is something I'm able to do at this moment. So that takes me to number two. Once you know what your non negotiables are, you need to learn how to communicate that to the people in your life in a nice manner. Don't look at it as a conflict. Go into the communication setting with an open mind and kind of put it in your head that you're simply stating what your negotiables are, what your non negotiables are, and that is it. Don't have any expectation. Don't create scenarios in your head. If you're anything like me or struggle with anxiety, it could be a little bit nerve-wracking going to these people and sharing things, because sometimes when we start to make change, we get a lot of pushback from the people who have been in our lives for a long time because they have seen us behave a certain way for years, act a certain way, have no boundaries. And maybe us not having those boundaries were benefiting them. And now when we start to say, like, hey, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'd be able to help out this weekend to do this. And they're like, oh, why is that? And you're like, oh, it's just because I know if I do that before going to the gym, I'm going to be more fatigued, and that's going to affect my performance negatively. And ultimately, this training session is going to play a big part in me winning my pro card. So, being able to have those conversations are never easy. But when you have those conversations and set those boundaries, you become ultimately clear about who you are, what your goals are, what you need to do, what your negotiables are, and what your non negotiables are. And the way these individuals that are a key part of your life, whether that be coworkers or friends or family members, how they react is going to show you where they are in their journey and how they're looking at you as you're going through this transition. A lot of these people are in your life in a day-to-day basis, so they're seeing the change. And I'll be honest with you, how they respond and how they react, 9 out of 10 times doesn't really have anything to do with you per se. It has more to do with where they are in their journey and where they are in their phase of fitness or work or business or whatever it may be, or even in their level of self-awareness. So let me explain what I mean by that. Let's say you are still friends with the people you went to high school with 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. I don't know your age. And now you decided you are going to do these bodybuilding shows, and you completely started changing up your routine, changing up the way you eat, how much time you spend in the gym, and all this. And you start to see positive changes in your physique, in your mental health, your lifestyle is different now. But the people that used to be your best friends are not making those changes. That's not their priority. They chose a different path in life. Now, even if they are your close friend and they are seeing you go through this transition, they may be cheering you on. They may be very, very supportive and excited for you. But seeing you making this change ultimately is reminding them all the changes that they could be making as well, but they are choosing not to make it for whatever reason. It could be financial reason, it could be that they have children and a lot of other responsibilities and they don't have time. It's not my place to judge, and it's not my place to say that those things are not important. They're really important for that person. But for you or for me, our priorities may be something different. And a lot of times, these people love us very dearly, but they are so attached to the person we used to be in the past that there's a disconnect between who they think we are versus who we are now and who we want to become in the future. So when we set these boundaries, sometimes these people may take it as like, oh, you're being selfish, or like, oh, you think you're better than me, or X, Y, and Z. Or sometimes they just look at it, they could look at it as if you are trying to pick a conflict with them. When none of those are your intention, you're simply going through your process and making yourself a priority and learning to pour into yourself more. Because like I realized, when I pour into myself and I keep the promises that I have made to me, whether that be waking up a little bit early to get the cardio done for me, right? Like I am in the driver's seat. So I decide when I want to wake up early to do the cardio and when my body needs to sleep in. So just because one day I'm choosing to sleep in and one day I'm choosing to wake up, and that's for my goal, and that's not to go to, let's say, my auntie's kid's birthday party or something else, does not make me a bad person. That's the key message I'm trying to relay. If you don't get anything else from what I'm saying, just get this, that you are not selfish for choosing yourself and your goals. You are not a bad person for filling your cup first. Don't let anybody else that does not agree with your boundaries and your standards make you feel like you are inadequate or you are not good or you are doing something wrong. When you fly on an airplane, what do they tell you? To put on your oxygen mask first in case of any incident and emergency, right? So look at it that way. Put your oxygen mask first, and then you can help someone else. And anyone who tells you you are wrong for doing that, I don't think that has anything to do with you per se. I think that's more of a reflection of them. So set those boundaries, have your standards high, and continue working hard to become your best self. Remember, the best is yet to come.